When I was growing up, we didn't have social media. We didn't have cell phones. And so you were worried about your small little circle of people. Now the circle of critics and cheerleaders, I like to call them, is the world. And so our kids are exposed to social media and getting likes or approval that impacts their self-esteem and in turn impacts their motivation. It's so important to us to help them navigate that and work through that. When people feel the safety of being behind a screen, they're not face to face, they behave in a negative way oftentimes that they wouldn't behave if they were face to face with someone. And so that can really cause extreme damage to our youth that are so easily impacted.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media. And we also ask them questions that we get from parents all over the country in our program. Now, let's get back to the interview.
Hello, my name is Dr. Kelly Mae Vollmer, and I proudly serve as the superintendent of Desert Sands Unified School District, located in Southern California near Palm Springs. We serve a little over 26,000 students in 34 buildings across our district.
Welcome, Superintendent. It's so great to have you here on the smartsocial.com podcast, where we spotlight amazing superintendents such as yourself, and we address parent questions to all of our listeners. We love you here at Smart Social as we traverse the whole country. Even though the two of us are in California right now, we love the rest of the country too, as we keep your kids safe on social media so they can be successful inside the building and the walls of your home and the school, so that someday they can shine online and get that dream job, career, and everything else, and be ready to use technology in an incredible manner. We've dedicated our lives to it here at Smart Social, and we're excited to hear from the superintendent on insights and tips and ideas today. Superintendent, without further ado, I want to dive into some of our great questions for you. A big question that districts have nationwide is about parent ed, parent education, parent engagement, if you will. As districts implement cell phone-free policies, which we love, and we think it's great to get kids focused in the classroom, parents are also telling us, hey, we're left in the dark sometimes, and they're begging for strategies they can use to work with their kids at home. What are your suggestions for districts to increase that parent ed, the parent education, and parent engagement around cell phone use?
That's really a great question. And when you're talking about cell phone free policies, we're hearing districts across the nation approaching that in many different ways, right? But we know, especially in our district, and I think I'm probably speaking for every superintendent out there, that our relationship with parents and that joint effort that we put towards helping students with things that are extracurricular in a sense, right? It's cell phones and the use of them is not social studies or math or science, what we teach, but we know we have to work jointly with parents, and that relationship is so important. And I know in Desert Sands, one of the things we've done that we're really proud of, we annually host an event called Growing Up Digital, and we invite our parents in and we cover all things social media. We talk about apps, we talk about video games. We really just try and expose them to what's out there and give them strategies that they can use when they're working with their kids at home on such things like cell phones and when to use them, when not to use them. And that strategy's worked really well for us. I will also tell you, we recently hired a really amazing individual that's working with all of our parent advisory committees. And it's not rocket science and it shouldn't surprise us, but the amount of parents that are showing up at our meetings is just historically never happened in our district. And what she's done is, instead of just disseminating information, she's creating events where parents are getting the information that they want, like how to work with cell phones at home and how to limit that screen time. And so we're surveying our parents, we're finding out what they want to hear about, and we're giving that information to them. And it's really helping to strengthen our partnership with our parents.
That's terrific. That parent engagement is probably such an important piece. You noticing parents being a lot happier then?
Oh, absolutely. And they feel welcome. They feel like they belong. They feel engaged. School isn't a place where their kids just go. They now feel a part of that process, which is wonderful.
Oh, that's a great key takeaway. I love that. I love that clip right there. That's excellent. Okay, the next question we get from parents is they want to know more about social media's impact on teens. How are you seeing social media impact teen self-esteem, motivation, and decision-making in your district?
This is a really great question. We have a superintendent's advisory committee that's made up of about 100 students, middle school and high school students. And they come in 3 times a year and they spend the whole day with us. And they help us with initiatives. They help us write policy. And we talk about social media with them. It's one of the topics that we discuss. And so what I try to relate with them, my history and my background, right? So when I was growing up, we didn't have social media, we didn't have cell phones. And so you were worried about your small little circle of people and were they happy with you? Were they not happy with you? Now the circle of critics and cheerleaders, I like to call them, is the world. And so our kids are exposed to social media and getting likes or approval that impacts their self-esteem and in turn impacts their motivation. And so we see that a lot. And it's so important to us to help them navigate that and work through that. It really has impacted the decisions we make in the district. We recently, for example, at all of our secondary schools, put a mental health therapist on site as part of the staff. The students have someone to go to and to talk to when they're having those self-esteem issues, when they're feeling concerned about the interactions that they're having on social media that aren't positive. We also, on the back of every student ID badge, put a QR code that they can wave in front of their device and they can immediately request assistance if they need to talk to someone. Because one of the things that we know for just people in general, it's not limited to students, but when people feel the safety of being behind a screen, they're not face to face, they behave in a negative way oftentimes that they wouldn't behave if they were face to face with someone. And so that can really cause extreme damage to our youth that are so really easily impacted and easily devastated by very hateful, mean things that people can do online.
It's a huge impact on teens as well at the very, very end. Now, another thing that parents are asking us for all of our viewers right now, whether you're a parent, superintendent, principal, or anyone in between on that whole spectrum, they asked me, Josh, what makes these apps so addictive? Well, let's hear from some students as they explain why they can't stop scrolling.
I think the most addictive part about social media is the constant new content that you see. You're always being introduced to new content, especially on apps like TikTok. I think the short videos, when they end so quick, you start to lose your ability to have a longer attention span. I've caught myself finding long TikTok videos and I can't stand watching the whole thing.
This generation really adapted to the fact that we don't have a large attention span. We really only concentrate for 30 seconds. Getting information that quickly, I think, enables us to just want to keep watching more. You don't even need to care about what they're presenting to you, but just the fact that you can sit there and watch it and you're oddly enjoying it. Social media is pretty addictive. People have said it's like a drug. So it is addictive because you can't stop watching it. Your mind just plays on loop and it enjoys the fulfillment of everything firing in your brain to just keep watching.
Thank you to all of our partner school districts that send parents to our program that has real students like this. This is a little recap of one of our evening events that happened last month. Remember, parents at our partner districts, don't forget to join our weekly live parent events and replays. Gone are the days of saying, oh no, we have a TikTok speaker and I guess I'll just let my daughter stay on TikTok because I couldn't make it as a parent last week. I guess I'll join next year. We have them weekly, best topics, multiple languages. We have teen-led video lessons in the program like you just saw and a premium parent newsletter. To all of our partner districts, don't forget to keep inviting parents because here's what happens in the long run.
Many kids as young as 10 years old will be unwrapping a cell phone for Christmas, but one school district is offering parents a gift this year, a tool to help them protect their kids using their cell phones.
It's really about safety. It's about safety of our learners.
Right now, College Community says about 400 parents are using the platform smartsocial.com that's covered by the district's general funding. The hope is to partner with parents so they're able to keep their kids safe.
There's this tool that they didn't grow up with, or they grew up with maybe one or two apps on that tool. And now their students are living in this world. We just believe that protecting students is not just confined to the 7-hour school day. Their safety is important to us beyond that.
Smart Social's founder, Josh Oak, says he's been speaking about safety tips at schools across dozens of states, now reaching even more families by hosting live online Q&As and providing parents pointers. The goal, preventing potentially dangerous situations like chatting with strangers and cyberbullying.
You won't be there for them forever. We want to make sure they're resilient and awesome using these new tools and that they come to you when they need you and that they make wise decisions when you're not around.
College Community says parents have been giving positive feedback about the program as it continues to track students' online safety habits.
Now, remember, parents, as you attend, we're noticing that incidents in the district are going down, attendance up, district incidents down. And don't forget, it's every single month. You get a $5 Starbucks gift card once a month if you attend these. Thank you to many of our partners and donors that are making this possible so that we have 10 times the amount of parents coming out. Okay, Superintendent, we're back to you. The biggest question that parents have here in February, which is one of our topics here this month, is avoiding strangers and dangerous situations online. And I know a lot of parents are probably like, well, my kid isn't online yet, or I heard about something happened in the community nationwide, whatever community you're in, as long as they have a device like an iPhone or an Android, this happens. So superintendent, what's your advice, your insight to parents and students to avoid talking to strangers and avoiding these dangerous situations online?
I love this question. So, when you talk about avoiding talking to strangers and avoiding dangerous situations online, you said something that I thought was so key just a moment ago. Maybe they're not online yet, right? And I think that if you just think about parenting in general, we start talking about things with our kids at a very early age because we know we're not going to be with them forever. We want them to have the right knowledge, the right wisdom to be able to navigate whatever comes at them in life. And so we start having those conversations. They're conversations about don't run out into the street. They're conversations about don't take things at the store. You have to pay for them. All sorts of things that just as we're going through life. And even if your kids don't have a phone, parents have a phone. And I think it's a great opportunity and so wise to start early on talking to your students about things like avoiding strangers, but it extends even to cell phones and screen time and video games and all of that. Because you've got a phone, so talk to your kid about it. I think it's all about the relationship. I think you can't start too early. I think you have to know what apps your kids are on. I know when my kids were young, they didn't get to take their devices in their room by themselves. They didn't have TVs or laptops or computers in their room. And my kids were great. It wasn't that I didn't trust them, but I just didn't want to put them in places where they could get into trouble unknowingly. And so one of the things that we've realized, and I think it's so important for parents to know, is that kids can get access to strangers online in places that you never would even have imagined. I've been on sites that the inception of the site was a very good site, curating different resources and different things, but you have all these different entities adding to the site, and then all of a sudden chat rooms are showing up on the site that the originators of the site aren't managing and noticing that's there. And so kids are able to go in chat rooms. And so you really have to monitor and watch what your kids are doing. I used to tell my kids, it's not that I don't trust you, but I'm going to check your history on your device and see where you're going and what you're doing, because otherwise I can't help you and have conversations with you about what's safe. And so I think parents have to be involved. They've got to educate their kids from early on and monitor what they're doing so that you can help them and protect them.
So well said. Such good tips on what I'm hearing from you is have a rich dialogue with them.
Yes.
And also do the difficult parenting.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it's not that I don't trust you, but I got to put in the effort to check your stuff because there's bad people out there that are saying bad things.
Exactly.
I love all those answers. The next question I have for you is really about video games. What is your advice to parents and teens about not only video game safety, but also managing video game screen time as a family? I'd love for you to throw in the pros and cons of video games as well.
All right. Oh my gosh, video game safety and managing screen time with those. Gosh, this is huge, right? And I think that, again, it goes back to those basic fundamental things that we know about parenting. And I'll just give you a quick little example that's not video game related, but you could connect it because this was before video games were huge. My son, when he was younger, would watch Power Rangers on television. The problem was, though, he was young. So every time we went somewhere, he would start acting like a Power Ranger and trying to kick people. That's completely not acceptable social behavior, right? And so we actually stopped letting him watch Power Rangers for quite a long period of time until he grew to an age where he could manage what he was taking in and respond appropriately. And so I think when we're talking about video game safety, it goes back to what we've been talking about this whole time. Know what your kids are playing, know what the age recommendations are for them. We certainly see some benefits of video games. We're seeing esports pop up in schools, right? That's a way that kids are connecting to school that maybe they've not found a place to connect before. But you have to know the age limits. You need to know the maturity level. You need to know if the content is appropriate. And then I would say, like the example of my son, watch your child's behavior. If you're seeing behavior where your kid's withdrawing, maybe you're seeing more anger in the way that they're responding to things, there very well could be a connection to the video games that they're playing.
Yeah, so true. Really great point about the Power Rangers thing, because I think that hits home for everyone. For all of our listeners, you've heard me say this before, but your kids' influences and the influencers they're following are the common sense that they're getting. A lot of parents will say, that's common sense. We should know that. But actually, common sense, let's throw it out the window for a minute. And it's really, are they watching Power Rangers? Which, no shame. Side note, superintendent, I've never said this on the air, but when I started my career at Walt Disney Studios in brand marketing, Power Rangers was one of my products that crossed my desk.
Oh my goodness.
Finding Nemo, Pirates of the
Love it.
Caribbean, Power Rangers, and Lilo and Stitch, but Power Rangers is one of them.
Yeah.
And it was a weird show that, I mean, I say weird, we all grew up with it,
Right.
but it was like definitely a dubbed show that they bought from overseas. Kind of weird, but I know it better than
Yeah.
most. What a great, relevant, everybody who's watching this right now knows that no matter what show you're in, you're going to absorb
Yes.
that. So parents, I think what the superintendent's also saying is anytime we're in video games or watching YouTube influencers
Yes.
or people showing, if they're throwing out foul language, we become that. We are what we eat. We are what we watch.
Right.
Superintendent, I think it's a great tip. I'd love to get your final thoughts on that. What suggestions do you have for parents who say, I just don't know where to start?
Right. I'm going to go back to something that you said, right? Parents saying it's just common sense, right? Because I think there's two roads there. There's the it's just common sense, and then the really legitimate and understandable feeling of overwhelmment of I just don't know where to start. And so I think we have to remember that common sense, as parents, we start that road down having common sense. You're inputting things into your child that help them have common sense. They're not just born with every element of common sense in the world. When it comes to all of the things we've talked about today, safety, screen time, video games, as parents, we have to instill in our children what is common sense when it comes to these things. I loved the students that were talking earlier, right? And their complete understanding that you can just get dug down a rabbit hole and spend all this time in the addictive nature of social media. And so having those conversations with your children so that they have the common sense to know when they're getting dug down that rabbit hole and they're getting addicted to things that they're finding on the screen. I think the overwhelmed part, I think if someone's watching, you're already doing the right thing, right? You just have to find somewhere where you're going to start. And I think learning and educating yourself and finding great resources like you can find on Smart Social, that's the best place to stop. Just take one step and that'll lead you to the next one. It'll lead you to the next one. At that point, you're engaged and you're surrounding yourself with people that are going to help you and you're going to find the tools that you need.
Yeah, so well said, Superintendent. Thank you so much for joining us here today,
Certainly.
Superintendent.
Thank you for having me.
And for all the rest of the parents right now, remember, it's all about keeping our kids safe so they can become successful while they're at home, also at school. They can make those calculated mistakes of learning math, arithmetic, trying things, being entrepreneurial. We know they're clever. They can get past the Wi-Fi password. But we had discussions with them then and there about why things are important, what's happening. Make those little calculated mistakes so that someday they can shine online, both in person, online, and everything else, and make you proud. And remember, as we saw in that news clipping, you're not going to be there for them forever. And there's going to be times when you're away for the weekend or something and they are 16. Let's make sure they make the wise decisions when you're not around. Thanks everybody for watching. And as always, remember, no matter what you're doing, make sure to keep it light, bright, and polite. Your kids are watching what you're doing online. We'll see you all very soon. Have a great rest of the day. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. Smart Social helps parents understand technology and social media to keep their kids safe and successful. Be sure to join one of our weekly online live events to become the smartest parent on the block so you can keep your kids safe and protect their future. Also, don't miss our 450 plus online resources and replays you can watch on demand in multiple languages. Are you a school district wanting to unlock these resources for your parents? Reach out to us so we can protect your whole community each week. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next episode.